Our talk today is entitled The Common Experience, Part 3. So this is the end of the experiences of the common experience, if you like. Let me just say at the beginning that it's really a joy always to share these ideas with you because we're growing in these ideas. These are becoming the most real things in our lives, and we're showing up like this more and more and more. It's especially nice to share these words with you during the Easter season because Easter time has always been a time people look at resurrection. And we see it too, not in the traditional way, but the real resurrection is kind of, first of all, resurrecting from a limited view of self, seeing ourselves maybe as unworthy, not good enough, comparing ourselves. But especially not just resurrecting from that limited viewpoint, but resurrecting too, and that's the key, to resurrect to the divine nature, the beauty that is within each one of us, to resurrect that presence within us that really links us to each other and just to the beauty of life. So it's always nice during this springtime to be able to resurrect into that new life that is always present within us. As I mentioned, the talk is entitled The Common Experience, Part 3. So let me review Parts 2 and then Part 1. The first time when we talked about the common experience, essentially what we said was that there just seems to be an experience that many people are now having in the world today. It's becoming a common experience. And we're just seeing ourselves differently. We don't quite see ourselves as limited humans, but we're beginning to see ourselves as more unlimited spiritual beings. And it's not just that we see ourselves that way, but we kind of are living differently. We've changed. We're nicer, we're kinder, we hold this attitude day in and day out, and no matter what we're doing, we just seem to show up a little differently. And it's not just that we see ourselves differently and we've changed, but we feel the change. We know we're different. We're better. We're happier. We're happy that we've changed. And we continue, in a sense, to move in this direction. When Eckhart Tolle said at the end of the book, The New Earth, he said there's kind of a new species arising on the planet. That new species is arising now. And then, of course, he said, we are it. I think many of us feel that. Not being arrogant, not being proud, but we're different. There's a new species. There's a new sense of who I am. And not only of who I am, but of who many of us really are. So that was the common experience, Part 1. The common experience, Part 2, was extremely interesting as well. And it was a very, very important thing for us to understand. The notion very simply is that as we become a little bit more of that spiritual being, as we become, in a sense, that presence within us, this way of showing up in the world is not the end game. It's not as I have arrived. Well, we've arrived to a certain level. We've stopped playing a game that is relatively unimportant, but we have not moved to the end game because this awareness is really, in a sense, our pathway of going forward. Being an aware, enlightened being, in a sense, is now the way we're going to travel. It is the technique of living. We haven't come to an end, but rather a clear knowledge of who we are and how we're going to live as we go forward. We said kind of in a couple of ways that we are no longer just earthlings, but we're kind of like godlings. We're just godlings. And as the Course in Miracles said very nicely, we've decided to take our rightful place as co-creators of the universe. Now, isn't it nice to sit with a group of wonderful people who feel that, well, that's how we see ourselves, and that's what we're doing. And as A Course in Miracles also says, we are creating the good, the beautiful, and the holy. So that was the end of Part 2. We're now ready, in a sense, then to move to Part 3. And what I'd like to suggest to you is that as we go into Part 3, and I'm going to talk a little longer today than I normally do, so I might need to cut off somewhere along the way, but I want to give a brief introductory comment, and then I want to talk about some principles of how we see ourselves as we go forward. First, the brief introductory comment. It's a wonderful thing to be able to understand the fact that we really are spiritual beings who are going forward. But let's be very clear. The reason why we see ourselves this way, and I want to compliment each one of you as well as myself, we have taken the time to understand who we are. We have not allowed the things outside of us to keep on confusing us and keep on sucking us in. But we have taken the time to understand that we really are these spiritual beings. We have set aside old, outdated patterns that just no longer fit. We have set aside ways of acting that just in a sense have gotten us nowhere. We have a new sense of self. And this new sense of self is that we are participants in a larger universal energy. And we are very, very happy to come forward in this way. We have taken the time to know who we are. We know who we are. And we're living this way as the way that we're moving into the future. I think we feel pretty comfortable that we can say that we are the evolution of our species. And the way we're living is the evolutionary pathway, not just for each one of us, but we think for humanity and for the planet as well. Please do not feel in a sense that that's a big boast. It's just a way we're living. And you probably know that you're really different. You're probably happy that you're different. And your life is just a lot better because you are different. So with that in mind, in a sense, let me then move into these 10 principles that I see us, in a sense, reviewing of how we see ourselves and then also going forward. First principle. The first principle, I think, is that we are removing a lot of the old baggage. We're cleaning out our closets of what no longer works for us. Even those few things we used to keep in our back pockets that used to be compensations in the past, they no longer feel good. And we're learning to get rid of those things that just keep us going in circles. What we're doing is dismissing what we normally call is fear. And whenever we talk about fear, what I'd like to do is I'm going to give you an acronym, then I'm going to give you a story and see if it fits. The acronym for fear, many of you know, came from Neil Donald Walsh, false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. Well, there are many false things that appear real that entrap us, and we're learning to put those away. Let me share with you a story of fear concerning one of our members. One of our members was confronting a new situation in her life that she had never faced before, and she was a little fearful because it was just a new situation. And many of her friends kind of abetted the fear by telling her of all the problems, the difficulties that she would face. And she got progressively fearful. She believed those stories. And then before she encountered that particular situation, a few of the members of our group talked to her and they said, well, you know, there's another way of looking at it. You don't have to be fearful. You just have that power within you that's going to see you through what you're going to need to do. So anyways, she went to the event and she was able to follow that presence within her that saw her through, sailed through the event, and just felt really, really good about it. When she came back from the event, I had an opportunity of asking her, I said, so what happened? She said, well, it was like this. I believed a story that wasn't true, and I substituted it with a story that was true. I put away the false evidence that appeared real, namely what other people would say, and I substituted for it what was really real, the presence that was within me. That's a terrific substitution, huh? So many times we just get caught up in what seems to be real, especially when other people say it, and we sometimes don't realize that what is really real is the presence that is deeply within us and powerful to move us through any particular situation. Principle number 2. This notion of sense of putting away what is false and in a sense coming into knowing that full power within us, the good news is it's not just that one or two of us is doing it. It's not just that there are avatars in the world that are doing it. The wonderful news is, I think, that most of us are doing this. We learn to put away what just makes no sense, and we're learning to live from that higher inner power, that direction in life. Paramahansa Yogananda just said that when he wrote the book, The Second Coming of the Christ, he talked about the notion of kind of a mass shift of consciousness. And my opinion would be that we are the second coming of the Christ. Well, did you ever think you might even entertain that notion? The fact of the matter is that many of us now live this way. This presence within us is an identity. It is kind of like who we are. We no longer live in fear, what is false, but rather we have substituted for it the truth that is within ourselves. Because we've taken the time to look within, we kind of know it, and we're doing it. Who'd have thunk we would see ourselves as the second coming of the Christ? Now, what becomes extremely interesting, though, is the fact that, well, what is different? So principle number 3, what exactly is the sense of being different? What I would want to suggest to you, first of all, is that there's a very simple principle that goes with it, and then it kind of has a couple of experiences that are extremely interesting. The simple principle that I would suggest to you is that we have let go of that which is no longer relevant. We let go in a sense of fear. We've gotten rid of a lot of the old stuff, and what we have learned to do is to substitute, in a sense, two things in its place. So let me talk about the first substitution and then the second substitution. Let's just see if this appeals, in a sense, to you. The old stuff is the junk that no longer fits. You know it. You know when you're playing in the junk. You know when you're playing with mud pies and you throw some mud up in the air and well, here I go again. But then you ask yourself the question, what's the real stuff? Because that's the more important thing. And the Course in Miracles, probably more than anything else, it has just really told us what the real stuff is. Remember that line from the Course in Miracles, the basis of it? Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. So you just think about that. Nothing real can be threatened. What the heck is real? You, your presence, that spark of God at the very center of your being. No matter what is happening on the outside of you, that spark of God is the consistent, stable presence, always there, never wavers, stronger than anything else. Nothing unreal exists. What's that stuff? All of the crazy stories in your head, the worries, the anxieties, the thinking that something out there is going to make you better when you already have the best that's within yourself. Well, therein lies the peace of God. Would you not see that we've been able to lay aside the old stuff, the stories in our heads, mother, father, teacher, preacher, friends, society, collective consciousness, and substitute for it that which is most real, a presence within us that gives us guidance and direction in life. It's very, very beautiful to be able to feel this and to know that you can't be threatened anymore. You can't be threatened anymore because you have that spark that is the absolute stable point of life itself. Which then, in a sense, brings us to the second major point, just by way of a little illustration that I'm going to then develop a little bit more later on. We've all seen these flocks of birds flying, huh? And don't you just wonder how they all change at the same time without hitting each other? Or you see a school of fish. Now, how in the heck did they do that? There seems to be a communication among flocks of birds, and school of fish that might be applying to us. Let me try to enlarge it just a little bit, going on to principle 4. Many of us, in a sense, have come to the understanding of what we really know to be real, certainly within our own selves. And when we talk about this notion of what is real within our own selves, I think many of us are now able to say, feeling pretty good about ourselves, that I'm a godling, not just an earthling. That's a wonderful little phrase. I think most of us would be comfortable to say that I'm a child of the universe. I'm a child of the universe. Or, as Barbara Marsh Hubbard would say, we are universal humans. We're bigger than what we thought we were. But this is the neat thing. What's extremely interesting is that there seems to be now a group of people like us who, like flocks of birds and schools of fish, are functioning in unison. This big shift. There's just something that we all have that coordinates us. And it is that presence that is within you. We don't all try to do the same thing, but we do have the same energy that guides us in our own unique manifestations. It's a very, very beautiful thing to understand that we are now functioning in harmony with each other. And I must say that of all the groups, and we go to every group, I always like to say, this group is as nice as every other group. Every other group is as nice as this group. And when we were doing our Skyping on Friday night, one of our guys from down in Florida, he just said, Vince, I want to tell you my daily affirmation. My daily affirmation is that I ask every day that I can bring heaven to earth to the people in my life as well as to myself. Don't you think that's just the neatest thing, to have people functioning like that? Functioning like that? Functioning like that? And to know that, well, that's the way you feel. It's wonderful to see that we're functioning as these patterns of unified energy. Principle number 5. The 5th principle I would suggest as we continue to grow and develop is the fact that these principles are no longer just in our heads. They're no longer just, well, wouldn't it be nice to sit down and discuss these things? But I would suggest for most of us now, we have embodied these principles. We've embodied them. They're in our bodies. They're in our emotions. They're in our souls. It's the way we come forward. It's just a wonderful, wonderful notion to feel more and more comfortable with these particular principles within ourselves. This is the way, in a sense, now that we show up just day in and day out. It's just a wonderful, wonderful notion to be able to live like this. And what I want to suggest to you is that as we have embodied these principles, there are 3 words that I want to give to you today that I think are important. The first one is that the embodiment of these principles have given you a sense of radiance. One of our members, he lives in a large retirement community in Indianapolis. He went to a couple of meetings within the course of 1 week. 2 people at the meeting said, well, here comes a happy person. There's a radiance. You don't have to look in the mirror and say, am I radiating? You're radiating. There's something within you that just comes out. The second thing I would just suggest, because you've embodied this, is that you have what I'll call a commanding presence. And by that, I don't mean you're controlling everything, but there's a presence within you that is commanding the way you show up. That you have a commanding presence from this power within you that stays and gives you certainty and stability within your life. And that really leads to the third, that you have become a center of stability. If you just look at your life, I bet you're more stable now than you've ever been. No matter what's going on, if you momentarily get caught in something, you just say, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Don't you think it's wonderful to have that stable center? There's a stability within you that is based on this presence of God, and nothing real can be threatened. We're doing this. Number 6. This common experience that we're having is not a new religion, but it's what probably every religion would want all of its people to be able to express. This was presented best by one of our members recently when she said that at the end of one of our services, she said, when I'm in this presence, I know it, I feel it around me, and it's there more and more of the time. I just think most of us are beginning to get that way, that this presence within us is much more of the way we feel. It's the way that we're showing up in the world. It has become our daily way of living. Try on these words of Roy Eugene Davis. He wrote recently, consider how you think and live as spiritual practice. Consider how you think and live as spiritual practice. We do. We do. We consider how we think and live as our spiritual practice. Then he said, don't separate your everyday life from your spiritual practices. We don't. We don't. They're connected. Our spiritual practice is connected to the way we live. What I would want to suggest is that we have respectfully set aside many of the outdated religious practices and doctrines that seem maybe not to be quite so on target and have proven ineffective, and have substituted for them a presence that seems to work all the time. Principle number 7. This common experience within each one of us, in a sense, has become, in a sense now, a very growing and expanding presence. Yes, it is always fresh, it's always new. Yes, there's always more to it. And we have, in a sense, the depths of the understanding of that. But this is what I'm just suggesting to you. This presence within us gives us confidence that we are creating our futures. So as you're sitting here, and it would just say to you like, you're the script writer of your future. You're the script of your future. You're the actors of your future. And we're the audience for each other. I think that's the way we see it. No one's creating our future, no one's jangling our chain except ourselves. But the neat thing about this that I would suggest more than anything else, like a lot of people say, oh boy, me creating my future, that's scary. What about this? What about that? And what I just want to suggest to you is see if this is not true. As we go forward into the future, it's not that we know every detail. This is what we know. We have confidence in the intelligence and the empowerment that is guiding us. We have confidence that the inner voice and its strength within us is giving us details for the future. How many times in the past did you not do something because, well, I got to think it out first, and you wanted everything done, set up, and then I'll do it. And we just realized that may be effective sometimes. But for many of us now, there's this confidence of the future because there's a guidance within us that is moving us and empowering us in this direction. And as we do it time and time and time again, you just begin to realize that it works every time. Principle 8. This is not a new age we live in this energy, in a sense that we're talking about. It's not so much, in a sense, new by way of different teachings. But this is what's new, I think, about today's living in the awareness. Would you not say, maybe for the first time, I don't know, that's a new experience? When you get up in the mirror in the morning and you look in the mirror and you say, holy smokes, Here's the God essence looking back at me. That's the new experience for most of us. And I think probably the other thing that goes with it is, it's a new energy. It's a new feeling. I really do think I am the God energy that is here manifesting, might I say, brilliantly on the earth plane. That's a new feeling. Did you ever say, oh, that's me? That's me. And for many of us now, we're beginning to accept that. And then when you say, that's me, you can't go back and say, what about this old you? I'm not that anymore. There's a new me that's looking back at me. It's a new experience. Geez, I never thought I'd say this. Principle number 9, it's an incredibly growing experience. We believe that not only is this presence within us helping each one of us to be stronger, but we also believe that, well, we're evolving the planet as well. We're evolving the universe as well, because we're connected with the creating energy of all of life. That somewhere along the way we feel that what is going on within us is a participation in the universal energy of life itself. It's like we have finally connected to the ultimate energy of life. And, well, we have decided to take our rightful place as co-creators with that energy. Can you imagine that? Sitting here saying, I'm part of the energetic substance that is unfolding life. And I know it, and I'm doing my part. I'm the one I've been waiting for. And I have showed up. I have showed up. Number 10. The last thing I would like to mention by way of a principle is the fact that while we realize in a sense we're part of everything so much bigger than ourselves, I think one of our most beautiful things is the fact that we are very much, in a sense, inclusive of everyone. We just look at everyone and we're not dumb, we're not stupid, we're not doormats, but we love everyone. And if someone is stuck, they're stuck. But they being stuck are not going to make us get stuck. We're inclusive. We just see everyone for where they are. And we love everyone. And we invite people. We just invite people to come forward to be their best. If they're ready to do it, that's fine. If they're not ready to do it, that's fine too. It's a very, very inclusive presence that feels comfortable with everyone. We don't take things personally anymore. We just realize that we are all here to work together, that as we have come from a common source, we're able to work together now as participants in that source. And that way of living, the inclusive way of living, seeing ourselves as part of a unity, has now become our, all the time, eyes open, walking around in the world, sense of self. It just feels so good and so right. I'm the one I've been waiting for, and I've showed up. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. I've showed up. Okay, we're ready to conclude now. I told you I was going to talk a little longer this morning, but the conclusion, very simply, I thought about many ways of kind of concluding this segment, but I still think it's the best one was the words of one of our members from Columbus. A couple months ago, we were down in Columbus. She just said, well, you know, Vince, I get up in the morning and I don't even think about these things anymore. This is just the way that I live. It's the way that I go about my life. And I think for many of us, we can say the same thing. We don't think about these things so much anymore. We're not so much figuring out so much, but rather we're just living this way. It's the way we've become. And it's a wonderful thing to have become this way with others because we share this common experience. You are the one you've been waiting for. I'm the one I've been waiting for, but most of all, we are the ones we've been waiting for. And we have shown up. Let me take you into meditation. Certainly what a joy it is to do so. So again, let us just be thankful that we have an opportunity not just to hear words, but now to feel them, to absorb them, to embody them. Fully now dedicate yourself to this meditation. And let us begin by simply taking a moment now to settle ourselves. Use any technique that's helpful. Reciting a mantra to yourself is helpful, but probably the best is simply focusing on your breath. Just focusing on the breath coming in and the breath going out. If a thought comes into your mind, just set it aside. Just focus on the breath, relaxing your body, clearing your mind, and bringing your soul to the fore. Please do that now. Just move now into that inner you, that place of calmness, stability, that place from which you radiate, that commanding presence within you. Just move into that part of you that is you. Would you say to yourself these words? I am the one I've been waiting for. Just say them softly to yourself and feel the effect they have. Would you take a moment to focus on the goodness within you? Just feel the goodness within you and not go to worries from your mind. That's fearful. Worries are false evidence that appear real only because of past beliefs and actions. You're ready now to substitute that which cannot be threatened, your goodness. Would you just feel your goodness? You're so good. You're made this way. Just accept how wonderful you are, please. And would you also recognize how smart you are, how creative you are, how you like to do certain things that are beautiful? Would you just recognize the good of what you do? Smart, creative, intelligent, fun, joyful. Realize what a beautiful energy that you are so easily able to express. Would you say to yourself that I have decided, I've made the decision to take my rightful place as a conscious co-creator of the universe. This is who I am. It's absolutely fun to do it, and I so appreciate the wonderful souls with whom we're doing it. And would you simply entertain this statement for yourself? I have shown up. I'm here now. I'm here. Return now to the rhythm of your breathing. I mean, don't you feel good? I mean, what fun. What fun to come together and be renewed in this spirit, to be elevated. And then to know that we're living this way. And it's not just we've arrived, but we're becoming and journeying even better. Again, may you be appreciative of the person sitting next to you and the people in this room, for we are doing this together, the cosmic meetup. And several times today, may you just say to yourself, okay, I'm the one I've been waiting for. And I've shown up. And just when you're ready now, bring that attention back into the room, into your wonderful bodies, opening up their eyes, and just knowing we are sharing a common experience.